or you can donate that money to help a lower income child. Businesses can claim the credit, and so can families and individual taxpayers. The bottom line here is that the taxpayer who earned the money gets to decide how it's spent on education. The taxpayer who earned the money gets to decide. And I think that's a huge point that a lot of people have missed in this debate is, what about the people who are footing the bill? So what about low-income or middle-class families who don't have a large tax liability, right? So you can use your own tax liability to spend money on your child's education, but what if you don't have a large one, or if you have a few kids? Run through that pretty quickly. Most tax credit programs that exist today are targeted to low-income kids, in fact. They're called donation tax credit programs. And what happens in this system is that a taxpayer, a business, or an individual donates to a scholarship organization. These are any nonprofit, so a school, a church, or an educational nonprofit decides to take these and give out scholarships. And that taxpayer gets a dollar-for-dollar credit, so it's cost-free. The ESO gives out a scholarship to help the kids attend private school. So personal use credits, I call them, ensure that families with a tax liability can use their own money first to educate their child. And I think that's an important principle. People spend their own money more wisely and carefully than if it's given to them. And donation credit programs make sure everyone has access to private education funds. Everyone is covered. All the money is private. There's no use of government funds. So what does the landscape look like right now? It might be a surprise that there are quite a number of tax credit programs already in existence. 3 states have modest forms of personal use tax credits. These have not been very popular compared to the donation. Illinois, Iowa, and Minnesota all have a small personal use tax credit program. The more popular one has been donation tax credits. 7 states have these. Indiana and Oklahoma, unfortunately, have only a 50% credit. So that means if you spend $3,000 on child's education, or donate $3,000 to help a child attend a private school, you only get $1,500 off of your tax bill. So it's a cost to the taxpayer. Pennsylvania and Rhode Island get closer to the mark at 90% credit for donations. Florida, Georgia, and Arizona all allow 100% credit, dollar for dollar. So these are the programs that are out there, but they all have positives and negatives. None of them are a perfect program, not surprisingly. So I think it's helpful to go over what are the main features of a really good program. What should you keep in mind in terms of policy structure that make for a good program that will be established very quickly and expand over time and have the opportunity to succeed and transform education in this country. 1, taxpayers should be given tax credits equal to 100% of their expenditures, so 100% credit. Anything less than this is very problematic for getting people to donate because it's an extra out-of-pocket cost to them. And what we want to do is give the best possible foundation for expanding choice if people do choose. Now, the reason that some of these programs have less than 100% credit is that they want to make sure that the program is fiscally neutral or positive for the state that's giving out these credits. So I think much better in terms of making sure that the revenue impact is neutral or positive is to look at the other side of the equation. How much can each child use in credit funds? And instead of lowering the percentage of a credit that someone gets, cap the amount a child can use, say at $3,500 instead of $4,000. We've seen in many states, Pennsylvania jumps to mind, Just over $1,000 is the average scholarship used in Pennsylvania for low-income kids. That's enough to get these kids into the schools of their choice. 2, donation and personal use credits should both be allowed. In other words, you should be able to use your own tax liability for your own child and donate for other people. And they should be available to all taxpayers, so individuals, families, and corporations. That ensures that the scholarships go to families that need them most, and that wealthier families spend their own money. And allowing all taxpayers, corporate and individual, to claim a credit means that the funding for the program is more stable and certain. The bigger the base, the less fluctuation you're going to have, and the more stable the program is going to be, the more quickly it can expand and meet demand as well. 3, if there's a cap on the program, which all of them currently have some kind of cap, it should be a significant amount. And I think $50 million is a decent rule of thumb. It'll be larger and smaller in various states depending on the size of the state. This is important, and it should also be able to increase every year that the donation cap is almost hit. Florida just added this provision. And each year that 90% of the cap is hit, the program can grow by 25%. Throwing out a lot of numbers here, but they're also on the screen. In other words, if the $50 million cap program has at least $45 million donated in 1 year, the next year the cap increases to 62.5, and it can expand indefinitely. 4, scholarship organizations should be permitted to spend 10% of the credit donations on overhead. This is an important factor in making sure that we have enough scholarship organizations around a state to meet the demand and to grow the program. In Pennsylvania, they have over 200 scholarship organizations of every sort, every religion, secular, religious, Catholic, Jewish, what have you, in almost every community in the state. What this means is that it can serve the needs of the local community, and taxpayers have a wide range of choices of the type of education that they support, and families have a large range of choices as well. When a nonprofit takes on a scholarship program, there are a lot of overhead costs in terms of verifying eligibility, handling the money, and fundraising. And 10% it seems a reasonable in terms of nonprofits, reasonable amount to allow growth. Tax credits, and this one, it gives me pause because I don't think it's quite fair, but a lot of things in this world are not fair. But they should only initially cover students switching from public to private school. And this is a very, very important point for budget considerations. If you allow current private school students to take a credit, that's a new cost to the state. And it means the program will not be budget neutral. It'll be an additional cost. And we want to make sure that this is a savings for the state and local government so that it can expand and over time include everyone. But initially only switchers, in other words, someone who switches from public to private school and takes a credit, the credit is less than the state currently spends for that student in public school. So the state saves money. This will ensure a positive impact on state finances. 6, homeschool costs should be covered. I think this is really very important. Many school choice activists, I think, overlook the innovation and importance going on in homeschool, the homeschool community. It's important, especially for families in rural areas with few traditional options. And it's an area of great innovation with relatively small costs that I think could be a huge driver in increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of education. There should be no additional requirements or regulations on private schools. All that should be required is what's currently required for private school, the basic requirements of state and federal law. No regulation should be imposed beyond tracking donations and scholarships. Scholarship organizations themselves should be required to follow existing state and federal law regarding nonprofits and charities that distribute scholarship funds. So that is my overview of what I think is good policy, a good policy structure. But how do we talk about education tax credits? What's important to people to know, and what's the most effective description of the benefits of education tax credits in school choice? I think it's very important to make an unwavering distinction between vouchers and credits. They're very different policies. One is government funds, one is private funds. People think of them differently. People respond to them differently. The courts think of them differently. And the opponents of freedom in education want to blur that distinction. It makes their ability to attack the program much greater, makes it a much easier job for them. Vouchers use public funds, and they court legal trouble and principled objections. Credits are a common sense solution that have shown tremendous bipartisan support and work financially and educationally. Tax credits encourage a more efficient, effective, and private investment in education. So the pro-school choice argument again, we need to encourage more private investment in education because we're out of public funds. That's the bottom line. We're wasting too much money, can't afford more taxpayer dollars, but we can't stop investing in our children. So what do? We need to do it more efficiently. Education tax credits are a proven way to improve public school performance, save money, and increase private investment and choice. Now at the end of this, I'll have a link to a short 3-page review of education tax credits with links to many of the studies regarding how these programs increase school performance and save money and all the rest. Supported by Democrats and Republicans, because what works for our children isn't a partisan issue. Everyone can agree that these work financially and educationally. So the anti-choice argument, tax credits are just backdoor vouchers. This is the first opening salvo. They drain public funds for private education when we're already making huge cuts to public schools. Can't afford to take public funds from public schools. So what is the response to this? And this anti-school choice argument, you see this every time the issue comes up. They don't use public funds at all, and they save money. It's as simple as that. You can't say that about vouchers because vouchers do use public funds, and so the argument gets much more difficult to make. Vouchers are government funds. Credits use private funds, and this is one reason it's so important to maintain that distinction between these very distinct policies. What we're talking about is using education tax credits to encourage taxpayers to invest their own money directly in education. Now, they won't be satisfied with this, certainly. So the anti-school choice argument, coming back to this, it's just an accounting trick to get vouchers in by another means. This, of course, overlooks all the principled and legal distinctions between the two policies. So if it's a trick, why have the courts upheld every tax credit program? The Arizona Supreme Court struck down vouchers and upheld credits. They struck down vouchers in Florida as well, but here there is a popular and bipartisan credit program. And the U.S. Supreme Court just ruled on this and agrees. Credits use private funds. So let's just get back to the discussion about more efficiently investing in education. This is the promised supporting evidence link here. I will leave up for a few minutes, but I want to just note again that the solution is something within our grasp. People know that there's a problem. People want a solution. They're just not sure what the right policy is. This is